Hi, this is Jonathan Rosen here, the Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post for Parshas Teitze is going to look at the concept behind the keeping and the performance of mitzvahs, which is obviously a fundamental aspect of our life. We have the Torah, we have the mitzvahs. It's something which gives structure and direction on a daily basis, where the very fabric of our Jewish observance is dependent on our connection with the mitzvahs, dependent on our observance of the mitzvahs. But what we can ask and try to understand is, when we perform these mitzvahs, what is our mindset? Is the mindset that this is a mitzvah that we understand, that we can appreciate why it is written in the Torah and why it is being given as part of our Torah and religious observance? Or is there a certain aspect of blind faith or of intrinsic inbuilt emunah that we perform the mitzvahs because it's written in the Torah? In a way, this basically relates to the distinction between chukim and mishpatim, mitzvahs that have seemingly a logical reasoning behind it, and mitzvahs that seem ambiguous, so it is hard to understand. So there is this categorization of chukim and mishpatim. But if we look at the Ramban in this week's parsha, it gives a new way of relating to mitzvahs in general, which goes outside of just this clear distinction of chukim and mishpatim, and gives a broader and in a way a unique and important understanding of how we should relate to mitzvahs and what it can mean to us. So in this week's parsha we have shiluach haken. The mitzvah of shiluach haken seems ambiguous. It seems to fall into the category of a chok, something which we don't necessarily understand. Why do we have this mitzvah? What does Hashem want from this mitzvah of sending away the mother bird before taking the eggs, or before taking the birds, the children of the mother? And the Torah gives a reward. It says that this reward provides a person with arichas yamim, with long life. That there is a weight, a value to this mitzvah, but why is it so important? And what is the reasoning behind it? It's not clear. And then the Ramban uses this mitzvah and discusses it in the same way as the mitzvah of para aduma. These mitzvahs that have significance and value, and we understand that they are important to perform them, but we don't necessarily connect with the reasoning behind them. And why does Hashem care about the sending away the mother bird? Why is it important to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? This should be a mitzvah presented and placed in the Torah. And the Ramban discusses that when we have mitzvahs, the question of why should not be our focus. The question of why is there this mitzvah? Why is it important to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Why did Hashem choose to put this mitzvah in the Torah? Is not necessarily what our focus should be. We shouldn't necessarily engage in this question of why, but rather, what is this for? What meaning can we take out from this mitzvah? The Ramban says that we should, and it is important that everybody for themselves looks at all the mitzvahs, not just shiluach haken or para aduma, and ones that are it's less clear what the logic is behind them. But for any mitzvah, it is our right and maybe our duty as a religious, Torah observant Jewish person, is that we should be looking for the meaning behind the mitzvah for us on an individual, personal level, not how it relates to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and what is the benefit for HaKadosh Baruch Hu if we keep these mitzvahs. The Ramban says it's for us. It's for us to try to engage and interact with this mitzvah for us on a personal level. What does it mean to us? What can we take out from it? How is it going to be significant for us in our lives? So for Shiluach HaKen, it does, as the Ramban says, it teaches this mitzvah of compassion, of not being cruel. If that's a mitzvah that instills within us, that if we are able to connect and understand the mitzvah and say, well, what do we get out of this mitzvah? Not because we're looking to gain, but we're only going to keep the mitzvah because we can gain something from it. As we said, mitzvahs are there and it's part of the Torah, therefore it does rely on a level of basic emunah. But on top of that, and what can add value to our relationship with the Torah and mitzvahs, is to ask, what is this? What is the purpose for me? What is the meaning that I can take out of this? So, and this relates to what Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch discusses as an idea of of asking what is the purpose as opposed to why. When we have the pasuk of Keli Keli Lama Azavtani, Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch says we shouldn't be asking Lama, why did Hashem forsake, but Lama, for what purpose? This is the Ramban's perspective as well. When we look at the mitzvahs, it's not why do we have this mitzvah, but for what purpose for us? And from a psychological perspective, this is the way that we can look at any different hardships or any different situations that we find ourselves in. That we don't necessarily, from a therapeutic point of view, from a psychological point of view, we don't need to worry too much or engage too much in the question of why, although it does have a significance, it does have a value, because sometimes the answer, we can't find or reach an answer if we ask lama, if we ask why. But for what purpose? What is the meaning that we can get out of this? What is the value to us? This is the subjective interpretation that we have a right, and there is a value to it in how we engage with our life. And whether it's trauma, whether it's different hardships, whether it's just any event that we go through, whether it's from positive psychology, different values and goals and skills that we have, if we ask, what is this? What is the purpose that I can take out of this? What is the meaning that I can find that I can take out from this event? In bereavement research, there's a whole field now. It's a more up-to-date, newer direction of asking, of meaning making, meaning construction through the bereavement process. So we can take it in many different directions. And this is what the Ramban is trying to give us, this vital message that when we relate, how we relate to mitzvahs, it is our duty, and there is a psychological value and a spiritual, religious value of asking what is the purpose and the meaning that I can take, that I can interpret, that I can then develop for myself in my relationship to this mitzvahs. Not what Hashem is getting and why Hashem gave this mitzvah, but for what purpose for me. Have a great Shabbos and keep well.